Hello, all you beautiful people out there. What is going on? This is your friend Britik coming at you fast with this really big interview. I'm joined here by a lot of people from Visionary Games. Like I said in my previous video, I was going to try and reach out to them and get an interview, and I got way more than I bargained for. But honestly, I'm not upset about that one bit. So let's go ahead and introduce everybody here. So we have Brandon, the director. Say hi.
Hey, over here.
Okay, we have Richard from coding.
Hey, how's it going?
We have Sean from coding.
Hello, hello.
We have Damon from character art.
Hello.
We have Osville from environment art.
Hello.
We have Dean from lore.
Hey, how you doing?
We have Kevin, community manager.
Hey everybody.
And we have Eric from mechanics.
Hey, how's it going?
Alrighty, so guys, it's great to be here. I'm really glad that we were able to glue this all together. It's not easy getting so many people in one place all at once, so thank you so much for joining me today. For those of you who do not know, my name is Britik. I've been a Paragon YouTuber since closed alpha, so that's March 2016. I obviously really liked Paragon because that's basically all I did for 2 years on my YouTube channel. I have been a jungle main for the most part. My favorite hero was Grux. I just loved the concept of a space rhino with clubs beating people. It was just always appealed to me. And also, one thing I do want to get across is that a lot of people know me, know my reputation as being the guy who I was always very serious and critical of Epic Games. I was invited to their events, but I never really went because of other stuff in my life, and I was always critical. You know, if they messed up, they messed up, and I called them out on it. And sometimes I filtered it, sometimes I didn't, just depended on how passionately I felt about the topic. And then they ended up just really, I guess, not liking that, but I was just very critical, and people respected me for that, for my honest opinion, because I feel like in a world where right now, especially, there's a lot of fake news, I try to be honest and very critical about things that I feel are very important to me, at least on my YouTube channel. So just letting you guys know that I will be critical with you all as well. I hope you're okay with that. I'm not just going to talk shit about everything you guys do, of course, but where there needs to be criticism, I will be one of the first people to provide it, because that's what people know me for. No bullshit, but also very honest. And I also very supportive of you guys right now. So I just want to make it clear that I'm not 100% fanboying, oh, I'm never going to say anything bad. But at the same time, I really do support your guys' effort. This is amazing, the fact that you guys are doing this in the first place. I know so many people are so grateful and so thankful, and I really hope nothing but success comes your guys' way. All right. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and start with Brandon. We're going to ask him a few questions. So just first off, real general, can you guys or Brandon specifically, just what is Visionary Games? What is your guys' vision? No pun intended. And just what is this project in general? Phoenix Rising. How is it Paragon 2.0, or would you rather not have it called that? Stuff like that, just general stuff.
So, Visionary Games is basically a collection of individuals from all over the world we've come from the Paragon community. We've played Paragon for a decent amount of time, and whenever we heard of the game closing down, we all just kind of, started looking for what do we do next. So on one of the Paragon Reddit forums, we saw there was a link that linked to a server talking about, join this cause so that we can make, Paragon 2.0 or something like that. So that's the first thing that I saw. I clicked the link. I was pretty skeptical because, AAA developer couldn't do it. Why would some random guy on Reddit be able to? Regardless, I went and I joined the link. I got to the server, and although it was a pretty big mess at the time, there's people all over the place. They didn't know what was going on. Everyone was frantic because of the news. Everyone was emotionally attached to Paragon because of how many hours they put in. So there was a lot of skepticism going around, and At the time, I had applied to that server to be a hero maker, theory crafter, something like that, and that was the position I was looking to get into. However, I have management abilities, I guess you could say, and I was able to organize a lot of the server into more specific groups. I was able to get a bunch of the channels all together and start, getting an actual organization created in order to start getting the project moving forward. Eventually, I was voted in to become the managing director of the group, and from there is, it's what everybody has been seeing so far. Visionary Games is a name of a company that, well, it's not a company yet. It's in the process of incorporation. It's basically people from all over the world working together to create what we think Paragon could have been or should have been. We're not necessarily making Paragon 2.0. In fact, we're not making Paragon 2.0. We're making our own game using basically a couple of designs that Paragon had, such as it being a 3D Z-axis third-person view game. But we're taking a lot of inspiration from other MOBAs in the industry as well, such as League, Smite, and Dota. So really the only correlation that we have from Paragon is basically their art style and the way that their game was displayed. Everything else is a conglomerate of all the other MOBAs that are in the market. And it's just, whenever we're making this, we're trying to make this to be as best of a game as we're able to. And we're doing our best to avoid the pitfalls that eventually led to Paragon's demise.
So that's a great transition, actually, for one of my other questions. So what mistakes did you see Epic Games make with their game, and how will you avoid making those same mistakes?
Whew. That's There's many videos and many voices on what they did wrong, and I can't say that I know every single one of them, because I don't. That's what I rely on my team for. That's what I rely on the community for, is to allow them to provide us feedback to tell us, what Epic did wrong and what we could do to avoid that. And, listening to the community was probably one of their biggest downfalls, is that they didn't do it. They had a lot of data. Not sure where that came from, but it obviously wasn't correct. So our data is coming more from the actual community itself. We do have a public Discord and a Reddit page where the entire team really does. We do go through the public Discord channels, the Reddit, and we read all of the comments, posts, just so we could get a general idea of where everybody is hoping to see this game go to. Epic's downfall for Paragon, there's a lot of different ways, but I'm going to have to say the biggest issue was their lack of community, integration. There's too much focus on too many different areas, and they just ended up not knowing which way they wanted to go. But we have a pretty solid idea of where we'd like to have this game headed. And that's thanks to our community's input.
Good, yeah, and I will definitely love to help input with that stuff as well when that time comes around. And then one more question. You kind of addressed this a little bit, but what will you do with this game, or what is your vision with this game that will make it feel like Paragon but also feel like something original at the same time?
So the main part that you're going to feel that you'll be able to relate to if you're a Paragon player is that you're going to be in a third-person mode. You'll be able to see your character in front of you. You'll see your character's attacks and everything, all their animations, everything like that. That's going to be relative. The Z-axis control, also relative, and we're also making our map contain a lot of verticality. Something that the later maps, such as Monolith and everything like that, didn't have so much of. So any legacy players are going to see the map and they're going to instantly start to remember how it felt to jump off of mid lane down into the jungle to your left or your right, running away from somebody or something like that. It's going to be, you'll be able to relate to that as well. The characters, you'll be able to relate in the way that they're going to be, as you probably saw from our state of the game, pretty high class models. We're not making any cartoony characters. We're not going the cartoony route. We're making them as realistic as possible. And that was another way that you'll be able to relate to the Paragon scene from our game. As far as the mechanics, the kits, and everything like that, like I said, we're taking inspiration from other MOBAs as well. So there will be some things that you might recognize or be able to relate to from Paragon characters, but there's also going to be a lot of hits and abilities that are going to be reminiscent from characters in other MOBAs. We're not directly copying anybody or any kits or anything like that, but there's only so many different ways you can word an ability before you're like, okay, this is basically the same as so-and-so and so-and-so from another game.
Mm-hmm.
But, none of our characters are going to be exact rip-offs of any other game or anything like that. And I made sure of that.
Okay, very nice. Thank you so much, Brandon. Appreciate that. That was very insightful. That really cleared up a lot of stuff. Thank you. Alrighty, so next we're going to go over to the coders, Richard and Sean. So I'm going to ask these questions. I'll have Richard answer them first, Sean second. That's just alphabetical. I'm sorry. There's no rock, paper, scissors here. So we're going to start off with Richard, and then we'll go to Sean with these questions. So first off, what is your job?
Hi. So essentially I'm an infrastructure administrator for public sector in the UK. So I deal with things like cloud-based computing and server infrastructure. So you can think of things like load balancing and that kind of thing. So where that directly correlates to the game being, you can need to host actual game platform. You need to be able to host maps. You need to be able to host matchmaking. You need something that can tie all these things together and pull all that into a single back-end system that's going to allow it all to run. That's what I do as my day job all the time. So that's kind of what I've brought to the team from that perspective. Originally signed up to do some of the programming because I have worked in Unreal Engine a little bit before. And when we first started out, we didn't know what kind of skill set we were expecting anybody to sign up to this with. We could have had people who had absolutely no skills at all when it came to programming, or be very, very new to the scene, or people who are already in the game industry or large enterprise. Not knowing where we were going to be on that, we were picking up anybody who pretty much wanted to join in at the start. But since then, we've really managed to refine that, especially as a lot of people dropped out, as people come back on board, and it's really become varied. And part of my normal job as a result of that is I also do an awful lot of project management, so running and managing teams, projects, and dealing with just general process. So that's kind of where I kind of sit. It's more now overlooking, keeping an eye on it, and helping it all come together rather than writing lines of code every day.
Okay, Sean?
Yeah, so I actually just work at a restaurant as my actual job. I'm a hobbyist when it comes to the Unreal Engine. I started playing Unreal Tournament in 1999. I kind of started messing around with the map editor and that in Unreal Engine 1, and kind of just went through the growth of the Unreal Engine, always doing little projects here and there, really kind of finding my footing in the UDK. And then when UE4 came out, I've played around a lot in it. I helped prototype the most popular game type for Unreal Tournament right now, which is Absolute Elimination. Scoob ended up taking over that project. He took it on to get an Unreal Dev grant, which was really awesome to be a part of that. Aside from that, I've just kind of tinkered around a whole bunch as a hobbyist, and I joined this project as a way to continue learning in the Unreal Engine. And it's kind of ended up me being the guy who hops from person to person and checks out a lot of their stuff and makes sure everything's kind of cool and ready to go, or helps people with a lot of the problems and stuff like that. So I've mostly been working on a lot of the ability system and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. So would you say that you were kind of like the glue?
As everything that's not on the back end, yeah, that's mostly like Linternator, and then I've checked some of the the minion AI stuff and all of that, but in terms of the actual AI setup, the center took care of all that. I guess you could maybe say that.
Okay. All right. So let's go back to Richard on this one. How hard is it to squash bugs and fix glitches? I mean, how many have there been so far? How long does it take usually?
How long is a bit of a how long to beat a string kind of question, isn't it? It kind of depends on the severity of the bug.
Right.
As far as what we've actually got so far, we've been fortunate enough that we haven't had an enormous amount of issues actually with the engine itself. We've kind of been quite lucky to have a decent flow, and in testing it, although we've had small things to work out, they haven't taken a lot of time. The biggest thing we had to get off the ground with was really the initial setup of the project, getting it off the ground. Things like our source control systems and things like that, and making sure that people were able to work together without stepping on each other's toes. So when we first started out, we definitely had a lot of issues with just developers who aren't used to working together, stepping on each other's toes in a programming sense, and that definitely introduced a lot of bugs. We had to go revisit things. Since then, we've now got that a lot more streamlined, and we are now going into a much more smoother pattern. But until we get into the place where it's a really playable game, that we know what bugs we're looking for, we're not really going to be able to know exactly how long or how many we actually have. What we're really focusing on and concentrating on is trying to make sure that all that back-end code is as reliable as possible. And I don't want to use the word polish, because polish is maybe the wrong term, but it's bug-free from the get-go in theory, or we understand how all that code works. So this is one of the reasons why we didn't pick up, say, the ability framework that Paragon released already, that Epic released. If you have a look at it, yes, it's out there, and they threw it at us and said, yes, here you go, look, here's an ability framework, but there's no documentation behind it. And it also does things in a bit of a weird way. So when you start going through that, we almost found that we're going to have to it's just as quick to rewrite the whole thing ourselves, but we're going to have a better grasp on it and be able to do more with it. So those kind of things. So as far as bugs go, nothing too much so far, but we'll hopefully not be introducing too many big ones as we go down the line either.
That's good news. How about you, Sean? Got any difficulties?
No, not really. I mean, most of everything so far has just been a simple checkbox here or there, and it's like, oh my god, I can't believe that's what it was.
Okay, that's good. That's good. As long as the road doesn't get too bumpy, which it probably will, but for now at least. All right, so this next question will just be for Richard, and then the one after will only be for Sean. So we'll split it up. So Richard, you said something about servers. Are you aware of? So are you the guy in charge of servers and clients and that kind of stuff here?
Yeah, essentially.
Okay, so my question is, how difficult is it to set up a server? You guys probably haven't tested with PS4 yet, but Paragon had a very large PS4 fan base. How difficult do you think this will be? Would you do it in the first place? I know. I think somebody did say that it will eventually come to PS4, but maybe how would that work? How would just all that work, basically?
Consoles have always been something that we've wanted to do. I mean, and that's partly because such a large percentage of the people working on this project and people in the community all came from a console background. Primarily in this case, PlayStation 4. Now, depending on how long that goes down the line, PS4 would be nice, but go accept the fact that there's potential that we may have to start working towards PS5. Who knows? But it all depends on timelines, and that's something that's very difficult to put together right now. As far as viability, I mean, the engine itself, Unreal Engine 4, is designed from the ground up to be console compatible. And it doesn't just do consoles either. It'll do Mac and other products. Now, we're running initial tests to make sure that we can compile our code to work on those systems. But at this point, it's very difficult to make a promise that we can definitely do it. But we are going to do our damn best to make sure we, see if we can manage it. And of course, there's mechanics questions about how do we do crossplay. From a server side perspective, I mean, handling just being able to host it, that's not the most difficult part. It all depends on how you want to handle your server infrastructure, but I could sit here for an hour and go down that route.
Right.
So we're doing our best to try and make sure we kind of plan ahead for the eventuality that we can and want to do consoles. But we're early in that process of doing that.
Have you done any in-house testing for the server?
We've done in-house testing for continuous integration pipelines, which means basically we can push our code into a system that automatically compiles it to work on different systems.
Mm-hmm.
That has been quite successful so far, and that does include other things than just PC. But as I said, it's so early on, what that actually means for the end result is very minor.
So you have not connected multiple clients to one server yet?
Oh no, we've done that. Yeah, no, we've got multiplayer works. Yeah, well, you can see that from our tech demo video. So yeah, that we have a server running. You can log into it. We can run around the same map. We can fight and kill each other, all that kind of thing. So yeah, multiplayer works as far as anything else. What we aren't able to really do right now is test whether or not a console would be able to run that code or actually do it. And some of that's going to come down to simply if it's PlayStation, it has to be a Sony agreement as well.
Mm-hmm.
So too early in days to really be able to give you anything to show from a console perspective. It's just something we're going to be working towards if we can and do our best to get there. But as far as PC is concerned, yes, we have network infrastructure all working and operating now.
Okay, good news. All right, Sean, so you said you dabbled a little bit in the AI. How much can you tell us about that?
Let's see. Yeah, aside from just kind of going over a lot of the AI stuff, I'm not super keen on it. Really, the way that a lot of this stuff is set up for AI, at least in terms of minions, a lot of it is already kind of natively handled by the engine. I mean, there's still a lot of logic that you do have to set up in there to kind of get it working, but it's impressive that like the systems that the Unreal Engine ships with already to get a lot of that stuff set up. So let's see. I'm trying to kind of think of the best way to say this. A lot of it is just kind of really dropping in some of the stuff, tweaking a lot of the values, and then saying, hey, I need you to walk here until you do this thing. And you set up like a simple behavior tree, and it just kind of goes with it from there. A lot of it is just kind of tweaking values to get them to act exactly the way you want.
I think Essence would kill you if you hit simple behavior tree.
Oh, yeah, I know those can get out of hand.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, so it's just a constant process of tweaking a little bit, bringing it back, just seeing how it works.
Right.
Okay.
Minion AI. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
AI isn't too bad because it's essentially almost just nav mesh pathing. They walk down a lane and do this once certain things trigger and happen. The biggest trickiest bit is when we implement bots. So we're not quite far enough down the road yet for implementing that AI just yet. So.
Yeah, see that relatively is the minion AI tree is going to be is going to be simple compared to that.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. Before we move on, I do want to bring it back to Brandon real quick. So how long have you guys actually been working on this project?
So the initial project, well, the server start date was January 25th. That's whenever the server was started. I joined in January 26th on the server, and that's where we went. Actually gathering everybody together and starting development, however, probably ended up maybe about 20 to 30 days after the server started. Just because of, you had to find the right people, being able to do the right things, and we also wanted to, well, for me in particular, I wanted to keep the coding side of things as secretive as possible because I didn't want anybody to just come in, grab our code and then go and make their own copy using what we have. So the coding part was also a little tricky to start off with as well because of, all these people saying, yeah, I'm a coder, I have this experience, but then whenever you ask them for proof, they didn't have it. So the actual development probably started about 20 days after January 25th. And as far as giving a time frame, it's hard to say exactly, but I'd say we probably started coding maybe February 15th or 16th was the start date. Maybe a little bit earlier, maybe a little later. I mean, there were some things that were pretty easy to start on, and there were some things that, you had to take your time with and wait on other departments to finish with. Concept drawings and things like that, they started pretty immediately. You know what you wanted to go in go in with and start off with. Master kits and things like that. To put an idea on that, currently we've had to temporarily stop accepting community master kits because our current roster that we have from the community has over 350 different kit ideas. So the development for master kits was pretty immediate. Everybody knew what they wanted to see in the next game, things like that. They knew, character abilities that they wanted or that they didn't want, things like that. And then it was just a matter of gathering all of the groups together into one place and start actually making it into a team effort. That probably happened maybe 2 or 3 weeks after server creation. As far as the state of the game, we had probably about a month or so of actual development to put into that. So everything that you see in the state of the game was made in about a month and a week or so.
Wow.
It wasn't an actual 2 months of straight development that we've had. One, because every single one of us has a full-time job that we work in the day. We have our own families. We have everything that we have to do in our own lives. And then everything we do here is basically, I don't want to say it's on our free time, but it really is. We're all volunteers here, and we've all been volunteering our free hours that any free hours that we may have, and actually developing this. And so an actual amount of hours put in is really hard to figure, since you can't track everybody's free time.
No, that's fine. So a month. So I mean, even with all that said, that is still very impressive with what you guys have been able to come up with. I just wanted to create a baseline so people know how long this has already been going on. So 1 month is absolutely nothing in video game development time. It would probably take at least a year of continuous development of the game before we even get to any sort of release of anything in alpha or beta. So I just wanted to bring that out to be more realistic about it. Because, amongst all the hype and excitement and everything, it's great, it's awesome, it's motivating, but you also have to, pull back and be like, okay, well, we probably won't see this until mid-2019 at the very earliest,
Right, so it's hard to put an exact number on when we can actually get any alpha releases planned, simply due to how long it takes for, like, a character to be modeled. The normal time that it takes to create one of these characters is about 8 weeks. That's from the ground up. And that's 8 weeks of just developing, creating, sculpting, and then going from a high poly to a low poly, having them rigged, and then being able to make animations for them. That's 8 weeks. And we have one of those characters already, as you all have seen in the state of the game. They weren't rigged at the time. There was some issues with the rigging, but everything is settled now. So we do have a character that we are able to get, in the actual map and stuff like that. And it takes 8 weeks for one character to be made. And we have our starting roster right now. We'll have about 25 hits made and perfected before, we actually have anything ready to be released. Obviously for our alpha, we'll try to get maybe 5 characters modeled or something like that and see if we can do a mirror match. But, things are bound to change. That's probably the biggest thing about this whole project is everything is liable to change at any time. If something doesn't work in one department, then we have to either wait, find a fix, or change something in another department in order to get the project moving again. Mm-hmm. So alpha release, it's hard to say. I'm not even going to talk about beta release because we haven't even reached alpha. That's down the road. Okay.
I think the one thing we can all agree on as well is that any company that's come out with, we're going to release something on X date, has ended up shooting themselves in the foot, and people get very toxic over it. So I think it's safer if we play by ear, are very open about where we are with it as we go forwards, and you can follow along with us as a result. So there's no hard set time in the sand, but it'll be there when we are. But just to add to what Brandon's saying, I think people are aware that this team's got quite big. And although, we can say that a hero takes, say, 8 weeks to model and things like that, there are more than one person available. So, we're not working on one hero at a time. We'd be working on several, that kind of thing. Same thing when you do art and that kind of, or sound. You're not having a single person spending
Right.
kind of period of time.
Now that you mentioned it, about how big is Visionary Games?
We have
70
people in the staff right now.
Oh wow. Okay, that's actually bigger than I thought. Nice. That's that's good having more manpower. All right, thank you so much for answering those questions. So next we're going over to Damon for character art. Damon, say hello.
Hello.
Okay.
How are y'all today?
I really like your facial hair going on there.
Thank
Really
you.
cool. Yeah. Alrighty, so a couple questions over your way. I think that Brandon covered this in the very beginning, but just to rehash it. So, will there be characters that resemble Paragon heroes? Will that happen accidentally or on purpose? How much inspiration will you draw from Paragon and the characters in Paragon themselves?
So, when it comes to heroes looking similar to characters from Paragon or any other game, of course, we do use a lot of other games for inspiration, as was mentioned earlier. But no characters will be copies of Paragon heroes. That's something that we don't want to do. We will, however, be taking some inspirations from things. One analogy that might make things a little bit more clear is that the modeling or the character design that goes into making someone like Twin Blast, for instance, 10% of that planning and modeling goes into making Twin Blast the gun guy, the gun character. Mm-hmm. And 90% goes into making Twin Blast Twin Blast. So if we do have a gun character, that will be a very small part of that process. The details on that character will be 90%. 90% are going to be about that character. 10% will be about him being a gun guy, if that makes sense.
That makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so in that sense, we will be making our own characters. Tropes exist, so if you see anything similar to something else, it's because it's probably you've seen a trope very similar.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like every MOBA has a Wukong in it. Right.
Yeah, every MOBA has a Wukong. There's a sword character everywhere. There's a gun character everywhere. There's a fire character everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so for the models themselves, can we expect a lot of diversity? Because I know one of the big quarrels in the community in Paragon is like, oh, there's too many human characters. Can we, people want robots, they want aliens, they want monsters and beasts and all that kind of stuff. Are you expecting to have that in your first? I think Brandon said 25 heroes.
Yes, we do have some really unique characters planned. I don't want to tell too much about that, but yeah, we're trying to tackle some of the issues that were brought up to Epic Games when making Paragon, and that there wasn't very many alien type characters or characters that at least didn't represent, basically a human figure. We're going to try to tackle those things, and I'm pretty confident we can do it. We also plan on having diverse casts, and that's not like something that's written down like this character must be, looking like this other race or anything like that. It's all based on design. But because design is meant to be, tasteful, because design is meant to be interesting and unique, you're probably going to end up having a lot of characters that resemble lots of different things. No character is going to be like, oh, that's basically that model, copy and paste it over with different color hair. Yeah.
Okay.
Not going to have that.
So Paragon had a very kind of like sci-fi theme to it. There were some fantasy tropes in there, like Greystone was this knight, but even then, with his skin, the Overborn Greystone, he was also kind of futuristic. Gideon was a mage, but really he used science to create those black holes. Will that be a similar kind of theme, or will it be more fantasy, or you guys don't really have an anchor on that?
We do plan for it to be a mixture of things. I guess there's a lot of leaning towards sci-fi. But that doesn't mean that you can't have swordsmen, spears, women. You can't have crossbows and bows in general. I've seen a lot of places. Everyone kind of can recognize the imagery of a futuristic samurai. He's got some lightsaber, but he's still a samurai. He's got a sword, kind of thing. This is stuff you could probably picture as being sci-fi and yet still relating to fantasy. As far as being fantasy directly, like a knight in shining armor, or some sort of knight-looking character, Yeah, you could probably expect to see some stuff like that. It'll be done in a way that connects it to the world, doesn't feel out of place. But yeah, if you're a fan of swords and bows, you'll see that. If you're a fan of guns and lasers, you'll see that. Robots, you know.
Perfect. Just got a little bit for everything. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate that, Damon. All
No
right,
problem.
so now we're moving on to Ozville for environment art.
Hello, hello.
Hi, I like your beanie.
Thank you.
Alrighty. So let's go ahead and talk about these questions that I got laid out. So for environment art, I know this was touched upon earlier, but how will the map be laid out? Will it be more like legacy-ish or monolith-ish?
So, our intention was to have something, a bit of a hybrid. We wanted the good things from Legacy, you know, verticality, something that feels grand. Doesn't necessarily have to be huge like Legacy. I mean, that caused a whole bunch of issues. But, you know, Monolith also did some things right. Many people think that it didn't, but, you know, they had that action-packed feeling in Monolith, where sometimes in Legacy you just kind of felt, oh, I gotta travel like 30 minutes just to get on the other side to join into this team fight. So, I mean, so far, in terms of map size, we've got Legacy, which was, if you were in travel mode, it took about, I want to say it was close to a minute 15 to get from core to core. And that was at a movement speed of 800. Monolith had, I think the slowest movement speed was 695. And that's Unreal units, so it's centimeters per second, essentially. That travel time was about 45 seconds from core to core. So that's a huge difference right off the bat. So our map is in a very sweet spot where it's going to take about 55 seconds to 50 seconds to go to core. In terms of wideness, we do have measures at the moment, but I don't want to speak too much on that because I want you guys to be able to explore it on your own. I know that the map is in a pretty good spot.
Okay. All right. Well, what about the aesthetics of it? You know, Legacy had these grand, big flowers blooming at the top of the jungle, and Monolith had like this dark side to it and this light side to it at the end. What is kind of the aesthetical theme to this map going to be like?
So far we've been playing with a couple of ideas. A lot of the community does want to see the comeback of, you know, dark side versus light side, or just even having two themes to a map. That's something that we're definitely looking at, that we're playing around with at the moment too. In terms of, you know, having those gigantic flowers on top, one thing that we really do want to have is to have a canopy over the jungle, have the jungle deep inside the map. Well, not ridiculously deep, but, you know, nothing like Monolith, where it's basically like just a garden walking into a garden rather than an actual sprawling jungle.
Okay, so a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then I guess so. You kind of answered that question. So, you know, in League of Legends, there's a river. In Monolith, there was a river. Is rivers and MOBAs are kind of like this, you know, midline of the map, kind of where a lot of stuff goes down. How would you make that area, that river area, more interesting with the environment or with verticality or, you know, stuff like that?
So at the moment, we currently do not have a river, but there is something set in place at the moment that we're playing around with that essentially kind of denotes that idea of, like, you know, once you cross this area, you know, you're probably overextended. And that's something vital even for new players to know. Like, if you cross this, you're kind of going to get screwed on your end. But as of right now, you know, we don't have anything really on a river, but there is something cool coming pretty soon.
Okay. And does environment art also handle minion art, or is that character art?
That's under character art, but that, you know, me and the lead character artist, Lee, we kind of talk about our ideas, because, you know, you don't want to have a minion that kind of just doesn't fit with the environment itself. So lately we've been having dev streams where he's working on the minions right now. And they have this kind of like rocky, mossy look to them, and they're starting to come out pretty cool. But yeah, you can definitely see, a relation as to why that minion is that minion. One of the cool things about Paragon was that, their minions were mechanical, but they also had like this overgrowth coming out of their heads, which was really cool. We didn't know the story behind it, and we want to do something similar to that in our game as well.
So it's a good thing that you brought out story because, MOBAs, in my opinion, the battlefield should have a story to tell. There should be something that, oh my gosh, something happened here, or what is the conflict that's going on here on this map? Are you working with the lore team to kind of, tie that together to make that experience a bit more robust? What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so absolutely. We work environment, well, I'll put it this way. Lore works with every department. One of the key things in game development in general is usually not to have lore or any sort of story dictate what your game should be. In a way, we still believe that because it's always gameplay that should come first. But in terms of creativity, what you can actually see, what you can hear, lore has a huge influence on that. So I've actually been working close with lore to see what exactly it is that this arena that you're battling in has a story to tell, what the story is, why you're there, and who are the people that have been chosen to be there.
Right. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. And with that segue, we'll go over to Dean, who is from lore.
Hey, how you doing?
Hi. Alrighty. So, Dean, are you one of the younger members on the group? Or?
Surprisingly, you'd probably be surprised to find out I'm 25, so I'm not particularly young.
Okay.
I just look very young. I've got the young face.
No, that's
there
totally
are certainly
fine.
younger members.
That's totally fine. That was a compliment.
It will be when everyone else is worried about looking old, and I'm still looking young.
Okay.
So,
okay. So then, first question: how will lore be illustrated? Will it be in-game voice lines? Will it be like a text background where you go to a profile, or is it just going to be something like what Epic did, where you go post like a little story on the forums?
So, all the stuff about how lore is going to be represented in game and outside of game is still being worked on. So, working closely with the UI developers and the artists and stuff like that to determine how our lore is going to be shown. We do really like the way Paragon was going towards the end, so that's certainly something we're looking to develop further. But there certainly will be voice lines, and there's been talk of presenting in other ways, potentially on unique pages for hero masters and stuff like that. And then maybe even on like the screens in between the loading screens in games, stuff like that. But at the moment, how we're presenting it hasn't been decided upon, and it's still all in the works. But we're working with people as a whole to determine the best way to bring that to the community.
That's a very interesting idea. I actually didn't think about that, but like getting to a master rank and you unlock like that final page in the lore book for the character. That's another really good incentive. I feel like that's a good idea.
Yeah. So yeah, and masters and stuff like that. They're essentially we're building it so that it's all going to feel very personal. So the stories themselves that build up and form together to create all these different threads that we're trying to create amongst our world and the planets and the races and all this kind of stuff. It all will be very personal. So should feel very connected with the characters that you're playing in the game.
That's good to hear. How, I know this is just a really general, maybe even a dumb question, but how important is lore to you, and how important is it to Visionary Games in general?
It's very important to me personally. I love creating these stories for characters and getting to know these characters in a way that goes beyond just the gameplay and or essentially just the fighting within game. So I'm very much a story person. I love creating these wondrous worlds and getting connected like that. And as for Visionary Games, it's very important to them as well. It's actually a big topic of discussion quite frequently. where people from all across all the teams get involved, and there is some heated, some unheated, and big heavy discussions. That really is really to ensure that we have a nice consistent story and basis and foundation and all this stuff that will make this game beyond just a game that you just play with a mouse and keyboard or a controller or something like that.
I love lore. I'm right there with you. It's amazing. I love competitive video games, and I love those kind of single player video games you can play, like The Last of Us, for example, on PlayStation is such an amazing story driven
My
game.
favorite games.
Yeah, and when you get to combine those two things, you just feel so much closer to the characters. It's so amazing. And then, like when I heard what Epic was going to do with like the interactive voice lines where you have Shinbi talking to Kwong when they're fighting each other and there's lore like that kind of spreading out that way. Were you guys considering that as well?
It has been talked about. It's one of those things where it'll probably come later in the discussion tree rather than sooner, but it has been mentioned already. It's been brought up, and it's something that we're keen to discuss because that interaction, I think it happens a little bit in some other games like Smite. I played a bit of Smite, and there's some interaction lines in there, and it just adds a little something. I personally feel to the game. So yeah, it's something we've talked about. Yeah.
And this is a really funny topic because this kind of hits on to where are you in the whole idea of game development? Because if something like that is ever going to be considered, you need to make sure you're laying ground foundations for that at the start of your project, and not trying to retrofit it near the end. Because that's where you end up, where you asked about bugs, that's where you're going to end up causing yourself a lot of problems. So already, although we're talking about those kind of systems, we're looking now already at how do we create a sound system that can handle that kind of interaction. And that needs to be ready. Even if we don't use it for 6 months or a year, it needs to be there and capable of handling that kind of product later on.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification, Richard. So, another question. So, will there be any Easter eggs?
They've been discussed as well. There's nothing been decided fully, but there's definitely been some discussions on Easter eggs. I'm not going to reveal anything that's been discussed because it would ruin the Easter egg.
Spoilers.
Yeah, no spoilers here.
Perfect. Okay, that's good. Yeah, because I know we talk about, or at least in the beginning, I know in my video title I put Paragon 2.0. Brandon, as he discussed, you guys are trying to stray away from that title. But does it still, are you guys still like a spiritual successor to Paragon? Would that still be accurate? I guess this is a question for Brandon again, or anyone else who wants to answer this question.
So, as far as spiritual successor goes, yes, we came from Paragon, and this whole project started up because of Paragon's closing, but to say that we're going to be the next Paragon would not be true.
Okay.
We're creating our own original game here, and as much as we all loved Paragon, like was stated in one of our previous Reddit posts, we're not using any of Paragon's assets. We're not using anything from Paragon. We're building the game from the ground up, but we're keeping Paragon in memory as of what we would still like to see happen in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we want that feel, but it's such an open subject of what is a spiritual successor, and different people have got different ideas of what does that define. And it's very difficult to turn around and say yes or no to. But we all love Paragon. We all love that feel, the way it worked, the way you got into those fights and had it brought us all together as a community. And we still want to capture all that and more. But as we're not actually including anything that is technically Paragon, probably a bit of a tightrope really is to say we're yes or no. We're not really using it.
So, I know we don't have the systems guy in here, but when I saw, Richard, the video that you put out with the tech demo, I did notice in the bottom left, there were 6 slots, right? 4 active, 2 passive. That reminded me a lot of Paragon. Are we gonna see that continuation, or is that kind of just like a placeholder thing?
There's a lot of things we're taking inspiration from Paragon from, and you're going to see that throughout the game. There are, we're not throwing it all in the bin completely. We're just not using their assets. We're not going to bring Paragon heroes into this game, that kind of thing. But that doesn't mean that Paragon didn't do things right that we all loved that we want to keep.
Oh yeah, no, totally. Keep that, please. Keep that. we don't want the card system. We want the six item slots. I think that was great because what other MOBAs do with the whole item shop thing, it's great, but there's so many items and it gets very confusing. And I feel like that 6-card slot system that Legacy had back in Paragon was a really great way to streamline that and a good way to get newer players on board, but also give you that depth that advanced players want in their builds and stuff.
And it's probably better for Eric, you mechanics.
Yes. Yeah.
Right, and we'll get to you in a second, Eric. Oh yeah, we'll get to you in a second. Thank you so much for those clarifications, guys. See this because I'm coming up with these questions as we're going. It helps a lot. Okay. Yeah.
Sorry, I was gonna say we are getting a lot of people asking the same kind of questions, and we are looking about how can we answer some of these questions in a proper video format, some sort of community corner or something. We haven't quite decided what we're doing just yet, but we'll go into command and address a lot of these things and be sharing more as our development flows. So.
Perfect. Thank you, and thank you so much, Dean, for the lore. Appreciate that. Alrighty, so now we're gonna actually go over. We're gonna hold on. Okay, hold on over there, Eric. We're gonna wait on you for a second. I know I got you riled up, but we're gonna go over to the community manager, Kevin, first. I'm gonna ask him a few questions here. Okay, so how you doing, Kevin?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm ready for this.
Okay, yeah, you just been sitting there nodding along, like, okay, when's my turn? I'm about to answer these questions. Alrighty, so I know you guys talked about community previously. Brandon just does such a great job with all these overarching details. But my question to you is, as a team consisting of former Paragon players, each one of you is a former Paragon player, how would you handle addressing the community about certain issues, glitches, events, or anything in general? Like Epic Games had their community corners. How would you handle addressing the community in a way that is clear and that is representative of what the community asks for?
Yeah, like Richard already mentioned before, currently we're planning to do a kind of a community corner where we addressing some of the most and frequently asked questions we see coming up either on Reddit or on our own Discord. So we're probably going with the community corner format like Epic did, but I don't think we're gonna limit us like they did to just a few questions. We're collecting them over over a certain time span. So it won't be too short and we have actually stuff to talk about. So they probably won't come up weekly like they did back in the day. But yeah, that's the plan.
Okay. How important is community feedback to you guys?
The community feedback is really important for us, and that has been already said quite several times, because we had, for example, the masters sheet where everyone could apply his ideas for masters. Also, we're actively reading all our Reddit threads. We're reading our Discord comments and everything you guys say. We even have an eye out on the Paragon Reddit to see what people saying there and stuff. We try to answer every question actively as we see them. But like I already said, some questions come up quite frequently, so we take them back and we'll answer them in the community corners. But us community managers are mainly reading all the Discord stuff and taking up all this feedback. And if we see ideas coming up for some systems, we take it to the department to review for them.
Okay. That's good. Constant. So I like that. I like how you guys are doing it over a long span of time and not just pulling a few questions. I think that's important because then it helps you see like these longer trends of, there was this really long trend of people disapproving of the new card system, and for example, like Epic let that slide, and then it eventually led to their downfall. I have been a consistent motivator of, we need to buff towers because towers are pea shooters. Like, what are they doing? You know, and I've been at it for like, I think 4 or 5 months before they finally did something different to towers, and then it still wasn't enough. But anyway, that's always a weak spot for me, is towers. Don't get me started on those. But anyway, so this is very important to me personally, though, and that's toxicity. Okay, my channel, I always try to promote positivity, even though I'm blunt, even though I'm an asshole sometimes, even though, you know, I'm very critical of people. I feel like it's important to be positive, and it's important to be kind to thy neighbor. And, you know, if people are trying to play, help them play, teach them the game. Don't be mean to them. How would you handle toxicity in the community? How would you address it? What steps would you try to take to make the environment as positive and as friendly for people as possible?
As of right now, we don't have really planned out how it's going to be in the game eventually. But right now, most of the discussions come up on our Discord, and we're kind of moderating it. We encourage the people to speak with us community managers when some problems come up, and we had that quite a few times. Right now, like I said, we try to moderate it. We take, maybe if an argument gets a bit heated, we take those people out of that, put them together in a private chat room with us, and we try to settle things straight. So yeah, I think we can agree that all of us don't really like toxicity, so we really try to fight that. That was a great thing in the mindset that Epic really had, at least for community managers, with their talk about be a lighthouse. And I think we can take an example out of that. And yeah, toxicity will definitely be a no-go to a certain degree.
Okay, that's good. That's music to my ears right there. That's good. Alrighty. Thank you so much. Now we're moving on to Eric, finally. Okay, we got there. Mechanics. So I actually came up with a few more questions, but we'll start with the ones I have written down right here. So I know when we talked about character art, we talked about how we don't want to pull moves or animations specifically from Paragon Heroes. We're not going to do rip-offs, but if it happens on accident, it happens because there's just so many MOBA out there, so many characters out there, so many concepts, so many mechanics. But are we going to see, you know, there were some mechanics in Paragon that I thought were really nice and intuitive, like Crunch's combo system or Shinbi's stacking system with her wolves. You guys considering those at all?
Yeah, I mean, most of that kind of stuff will more come from the dev team. They will, you know, build the kit, see how they want it and all that kind of stuff, and then they hand it over to us, and we'll start, you know, working out the logistics of it and seeing if certain things can work in the systems that we've created and the rules that we've created in that world. So that'd be more of a dev thing. But yeah, pretty much whatever they come up with, we try and make work.
Okay. And so you said you also work closely to systems, right?
Yeah, we work with pretty much everybody since, yeah, we have to, you know, with lore, whatever systems and attributes, we have to kind of talk to them to figure out if it's the right name, it's the right kind of stuff that they're putting in the lore and in the environment. And we have to talk to the environment to see, you know, how big the world is and, you know, the distance between, you know, the end of the tower and where the tower can shoot, so we can make sure basics are that stuff. So we pretty much have to, work with everybody.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so there was a few things that Paragon did very uniquely during Legacy from other MOBAs, right? We had Orb Prime and the dunking mechanic. We had Harvesters, and we had Travel Mode. Okay, those are three really different things from any other MOBA. Are you guys trying to come up with some unique mechanics like that? Can we expect anything like that, or is it going to be more like, okay, this is a MOBA?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at, you know, everything that Legacy did and Monolith did, even what Dota and League and Smite and even other RPGs are doing and stuff like that. But yeah, we're not really ready to talk about exactly what we're doing with those yet.
I think it's safe to say we have got some unique things coming though.
Yeah, we have some pretty cool stuff coming.
Okay, that's good. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Okay.
We definitely want to make it not just like, you know, grabbing this thing from League and this thing from Dota and putting it in. We want to definitely make our own spin and what works in not only our map but our world that we're making.
Nice. Okay. So what about stun timers, right? Paragon stun fests, am I right? That's a big thing, I think, that right. I played a little bit of Smite after Paragon announced shutdown, and I think their longest stun timer was about 1.4 seconds, maybe 1.5 seconds, but not 2 seconds, not 2.2 seconds, right? That's like a very long time in MOBA time. So stun fest and game time, like game length. I know we talked about the map size and everything. Like, what are you guys looking at as the sweet spot for those mechanics?
Yeah, I mean, we're still playing with exactly, but we definitely don't want stun fest. So that's pretty accurate. We definitely don't want that. We want mechanics that actually, have people play the game and not sit around and wait to get unstunned. And game length, I mean, we don't want hour and a half games, but we also don't want 10-minute games either. So we're trying to balance that somewhere in the middle to make sure that it's fun and rewarding as well.
And I can touch up some on some of these master questions that you're having, such as the combos and things like that, stun times, because I am part of the master development department as well. The kit creation that we have going on, I'm really trying to have them avoid too many stuns, too many roots. We don't want to stop the gameplay, basically. We want people to still have freedom to counter and not just get immediately steamrolled just because 3 of the team members have a stun and a root, So I'm trying to have them avoid, too many or too long of stuns, too many or too long of roots, but the ones that, whenever there is a root or a stun, it's going to be, a little challenging to pull off. We don't want someone to be able to just run in, stun an entire team because they're playing an easy character, and then have all of the heavy hitters come in and do all their business because that one easy character set it up. But we're trying to avoid it, and it's tough balancing right from the get-go, but with the more characters that we have in our roster, the easier it is for us to balance all of them based on their skill levels, their skill caps. And the roster that we're going to be heading towards, for starting off, we're going to have 5 beginner level characters, 10 intermediate, and 10 advanced. And, each of these different levels presents a different level of difficulty that character will have. So there's going to be higher risk, higher reward. As far as combo characters go, our team really likes combos. We want most of our kits have synergy, not with just themselves, but with other masters that are in the roster as well. So if you have 2 people that pick like a fire character or something like that, they're going to synergize well with each other because one of them will have maybe a passive or something that'll help increase damage on people that are on fire or something crazy like that. So we're building our masters to have synergy not with just their own kits, but with other kits as well. And that's how we're balancing our combos, so that, it's not always just I pick this character and I can only play in this one lane because I'm good at doing just these things. Mm-hmm. We're not restricting our character creation to lanes, but we're actually giving them roles instead, and then building their kits based on their roles so that, you have the ability to play them in other lanes if you want, but they'll probably be better in this lane with, somebody that has these other roles, things like that. Got a little off topic there, but yes, we do have combos building up, and we're building our combos with not just the single heroes, but we're building combo kits with multiple kits as well.
That's good. So passives confirmed then?
There's definitely going to be passives. It's not going to take up any ability slots or anything like that. That was the worst. But there are going to be passives, and the passives aren't going to be weak like they were in Paragon, where you're just like, kill this minion, get so much more gold. These passives are going to actually help build that either that character's kit up to be stronger, or it's going to help a team member kit to get stronger objectively, or stuff like that.
Very interesting. Okay, I'm excited. Yeah, because that definitely sounds like a deeper game in general when you have those things mixing together. Okay, so let's bring it back to mechanics. Let's bring it back to Eric for one more question. So I forget who said it, but you guys talked about was it minion art? But basically, I had this interesting idea. So it has to do with minion mechanics, how they might interact with heroes in general. So I know in Paragon, like, you targeted the enemy hero in a lane, and then the minions would hit you. They would all target you instantly. Are we gonna be seeing similar stuff like that, or here's an idea, kind of play around with it, have it be like a character-based thing? Maybe talking about passives, like a hero has a passive where minions don't target you when you attack an enemy during the laning phase or something like that, or is it just going to be very similar? Are minions going to be similar to what we see in Paragon?
I think minions are going to be. We have a list of how the minions are going to interact with other minions and the heroes, and other things that might be in the environment, or how that all works. And there could be passives or stuff like that change how minions do. That's more of how the masters decide to get built, and stuff like that.
So I keep hearing masters. So is that instead of heroes, like Paragon had heroes, this game is going to have masters?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. I see. All right. Is there going to be? Oh yes. Speaking of masters, right? Maybe mechanics knows this. Is there going to be like a leveling system similar to what Paragon had?
Yeah. All MOBAs have a leveling system. And there's different leveling systems in Smite and Dota and League and Paragon, and all these other MOBAs. So yeah, we definitely have a leveling system. But it might not be exactly what Paragon was, or is.
Mm-hmm. So they all have their different stuff. They have like cosmetics when you level them up. They have emotes when you level them up. Or
Yep.
I think League has runes, I believe. I haven't played League in a very long time, but you can like put in more runes, I think, when you reach to a certain rank with a hero. Any kind of ideas on that? There's gonna be more.
Yeah, we have a bunch of stuff in that direction of different things, that different MOBAs are doing, and not just MOBAs, but RPGs and other third-person action games. We are looking at everything to kind of create the experience that we want to make.
Alrighty. Okay, well, thank you so much, Eric. Appreciate that. We got a lot of questions answered, I think. This was really great. Thank you, everybody, for answering all these questions. I do want to close out kind of, I was going to do this in the beginning, but let's just close this out. Let's start off with Brandon. Let's just talk about how long have we been playing Paragon, and who was our favorite hero?
So, I don't remember the exact date that I started Paragon, but I'm pretty sure it was late 2016. At least that's when my first purchase was. So I'm assuming that I played then. I was back there in the Legacy days. Back in Legacy, I mained as an Iggy, and I really liked him. He was I don't want to say he was great. It was tough to play, and the scariest part for me was seeing Chimera running from the jungle towards me, and I had nothing to do. My favorite character that I've come to like in Paragon, that's a really tough question, because I really loved to play Yin back whenever she still had her range and everything like that, but as soon as she was nerfed, you just couldn't really play her anymore. Then, so I'd have to say Yin was my highest level character, so she was probably my favoriteest before she got nerfed. After that, I played, Revenant, and I didn't have any specific lane that I would really play. It didn't really matter to me. I was capable of playing in any position, so I usually just filled. So I wasn't a master at every single character, but most of my characters were probably around level 6 or level 7.
Nice. All right, Richard, what about you?
Sorry, I was muted. I was there for a legacy as well. I think I jumped in really early up on the when they first started announcing founders packs, but that's because they were highlighting sort of Paragon and Overwatch and everything else was all around at the same time for early days back then in E3 and that kind of videos coming out. And as soon as you saw that big video for Paragon Steel coming and smashing in and all hell breaking loose, that really sold it for me. So I played a shitload of Deca essentially, but later on found myself doing lots and lots of solo queue. But once they released Zinx later on, I ended up playing an awful lot of Zinx because I found that she was just one of those few characters I felt that you could build in enough the ways to counter, especially more countering my own teammates, I think, more than the actual enemies. The poor matchmaking. But there we go. Yes, that was me.
Nice. Perfect. I think Sean dropped out. I think he ran away.
Yeah, Sean's had to disappear, I'm afraid. So he said sorry.
That's okay. That's fine. And then let's go over to Damon. How about you?
So my favorite hero was Chimera, and I started playing during early access.
Okay, nice and sweet. What'd you like about Chimera? What made him your favorite?
His design was awesome, and I love jungling characters, so that definitely fit with me, as well as his leap. I played League a lot, so I played a lot of Rengar, and that leap really kind of just brought it home.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Okay. What about you, Osville?
So I also started up in Legacy. I bought into Closed Alpha back when they were selling the Founder packs. My first hero actually was Howitzer, just because I thought his kit just looked super cool. Rocking out with the R2000 and like his little bomb, his mine. That was just such a sick kit to play around with in the early days. So then after that, I started dabbling with like ADCs. I ended up mastering Twin Blast. Then I switched back over to mid laners, and I remember when the new Dawn update came out. Me and a friend. Oh, you actually know him, Frankie. Remember Frankie Feed and Leave?
Oh yeah, I do.
Yeah, me and him were messing around one day, and I was like, "Dude, do you want to do what was it, Bellica Gadget?" And we started doing Bellica Gadget in the duo lane, and we were just like wrecking everybody. It was like one of the greatest things to come back to after being gone for so long.
Oh, that's neat. Did we ever play together? What was your handle?
Just Osville.
Oh, I don't. Okay, so I don't think we did play together, huh?
No, but I do remember like you would be like we would be in the channels every once in a while together, and Frankie would like have me tag along with you guys. I was like the little kid brother, just being dragged everywhere.
That's so cool. I ran into, I think it was Pigmare was his handle online. That's some people that watch my stuff is like, hey, we're making this game now that you might play and cover in the future. I'm like, that's so cool. Like, that's just wow. Like, started from the bottom, now you're here, kind of thing. Like, that's crazy. So
yeah, dude.
I love those moments so much. That's really neat. Yeah, I'll tell Frankie. Okay, so Dean, what about you?
I was in early closed beta as well, bought into the Founders Packs. Gideon was probably my first hero and still one of my favorites towards the end. I played him a lot in the early stages, so I tended to not play him that much towards the end, but Bellica was another favourite of mine. I quite liked her kit, despite her being overpowered at times with stuns and stuff like that. The drone, although hard to balance, was I thought really cool skill.
Yeah.
I switched into jungle late on just after they announced it was closing. So following a lot of Twitch streamers on that, played Severog and characters like that. Severog was a really cool mechanic as well before they started changing him up and nerfing all the interesting stuff about him. So yeah, I was a mid lane main for a while before when I was trying to play competitively. Before having to stop due to time and stuff like that, and then switching between solo and jungle a lot. So I played a lot of mid lane characters. Gadget was another favorite of mine coming up, right?
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So yeah.
I really liked Sevarog as well. He and Grux were my top two, but I always say Grux just because he was also my first jungler, and I just fell in love with him, man. And his passive back when you would gain health every time you'd kill a minion or something, and you would put lifesteal and crit chance and crit damage back when you could get to 250%, and it's just you could 1v5 the whole team. It was ridiculous. It's amazing.
Yeah, there was too many Gruxies running around killing me to like Grux. So you know,
so
mention that legacy pull. It was massive.
Oh yeah, it was so huge. It's great. All right, so Kevin, what about you?
Yeah, I started playing Paragon. When was it? I think it was in May 2016, and I was absolutely clueless. I played shit like gadget support with physical damage, and I was just absolutely clueless. And yeah, but it grew on me. Later on, I come to love Seraph. She's my absolute favorite. Played her religiously in the jungle.
Religiously,
really...
I see what you did there.
Yeah, it was really sad when version 42 came out and she wasn't viable anymore, not as she was before. So I switched to Grux then and mastered him. But yeah.
Perfect. All right, Eric, how about you?
Yeah, I bought into Founders early access as well. Started out with Sparrow. She was my girl for a long time, and then moved to Iggy and then Bellica as well. Just kind of jumped all over the place. I love playing pretty much every character in every lane and trying to, break it and put people in areas that they weren't supposed to go and have fun with that.
Yeah, it's just talking about these characters. Like you just get this beautiful picture in your head. They did do a great job of making each character as unique as possible and having like that feel to them. And I hope you guys achieve those same results, man. I would love to someday play your guys' game and then be on Discord with some of my buddies and be like, yo, you remember when this character was overpowered and then they nerfed them? Like, oh man, or remember when they had this about them? Like, that's so great. Like, you guys are all smiling because we all want that. We all want to see that vision fulfilled. I think that's going to be a beautiful thing one day. So thank you guys once again so much for this interview. This is amazing. I would love to keep in contact with all of you. I'd love to keep supporting you guys while also giving constructive criticism and being critical when necessary. Right, I know there's like, I feel like there was these factions of Paragon YouTubers, because I lived in this realm where we had like the D writers, and then we had the people that just said what was on their mind, and then we had some in the middle. So I'm always going to be honest with anything and everything, and that's going to be out of love and only love. So please don't blacklist me. That's great.
No, that's fine. That's exactly what we need from everybody, is that honesty anyway. We don't want to hide away from any sort of criticism, but the big thing is for us is to come and talk to us. I mean, like I think Eric said earlier, we're active all the time, and we're active on Discord and Reddit, and every member of the team as well. We don't regulate and say you can't go out there and talk to people. We say be professional, but we don't stop people talking. So if you have questions, come to us, ask us, have criticism, come let us know. Ideas, everything. We take it on board. We take it from that public side into an internal dev stream, and we try and produce from it as well. So yeah, don't be afraid to speak to us.
Okay, perfect. Can I link your guys' Twitters in the description?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, perfect. I will get that information from all of you. And Brandon, I'll also get the Discord link from you, and I think, and then your Twitter, obviously, so people can stay in touch. Because I do think the reason I focus so much on community is that I think that is a thing that Epic didn't really do too well. I think that's super important, not just when you're making a game, but also keeping it afloat and having the people play, because who's playing your game? The community, right? So you want to work together with them. It only makes sense. So,
and
again,
just to touch on that real quick, any sort of criticism is welcome. The more honest somebody is with us, the easier it is for us to figure out what areas we need to work on. So it's great having all of this hype, having everybody being so happy about everything, but it's also equally as great when somebody tells us, hey, look, that looks great, but what about this mechanic? You know, it might be something that we didn't even think of yet, and now we're thinking of it. So I definitely would not say to hide any sort of, honest criticism, even if it's mean. We're all adults here. We're able to take criticism, and we expect it. The best way to grow is through constructive criticism.
I think the key behind that, though, is it needs to be constructive, doesn't it? I mean, people just hate him for just the sake of hating doesn't help anything. I know there isn't a massive, great big. There's quite a few people who have concerns over Whedon's design that we've shared already, but there are reasons behind why it's there, and although we're not really doing an awful lot with that criticism at the moment, we are aware of it. We are thinking about that, but those reasons are going to come out more when you see it actually work in the gameplay. And you can't please everyone with everything as well. I mean, if you look down this group of people here, everybody here had a different favorite hero. Mm-hmm. Someone else is going to like something different. So and if that turns into means we have to build redesign later on down the line, very well possibly. But give us a chance to get something into an engine that you can see why, what we're thinking. It's early days. So
yeah. So you guys heard it here first. Just spam their Discord with all your hate messages. No, alrighty. Well, again, I just can't say this enough. Thank you so much. I'll link everything in the description. And thank you for everyone who watched this YouTube video. I think this was very informative. I think this helped lay out a lot of ground moving forward, and I'm excited to see what you guys do in the future. Keep the streams up, keep the videos posting. All support right here. All right.
Thank you for having us.
No problem. So
cheers.
Yep, thank you.
Peace out. I'm gonna go make dinner.
Great. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, drop a like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell if you haven't already. And as always, make sure to have a wonderful day. Peace.